In the heart of a forgotten corner of Detroit, where cracked sidewalks met overgrown lots, and the echo of distant traffic drowned out children's laughter, a little girl named Ava stood alone. Her small hands clutched a frayed notebook, its pages filled with crayon dreams of swings that soared like birds and slides that twisted like rivers. At 8 years old, she had never known the joy of a playground, only the sting of rusty fences and empty spaces that whispered promises of what could be. But on this gray afternoon, as rain began to fall like tears from the sky, Ava whispered to herself, "I wish someone would see us." Little did she know, that simple wish would ignite a chain of kindness that would transform not just the lot, but the souls of everyone it touched, leading to a day when her drawing would hang on a brand new gate, a symbol of hope reborn. Ava lived in Willow Creek, a neighborhood squeezed between factories and freeways, where families scraped by on minimum wage and dreams deferred. Her mother, Elena, worked double shifts at a diner, her face etched with worry lines that deepened each time she saw Ava playing in the street, dodging cars instead of chasing butterflies. The local park had been bulldozed years ago for a development that never came, leaving behind a barren field littered with broken glass and discarded tires. Kids like Ava made do with what they had, kicking cans or climbing crumbling walls, but Elena often lay awake at night, haunted by the fear that her daughter deserved more. It was during one of those sleepless nights that Elena tuned into a local news segment about community volunteers rebuilding lives one project at a time. Inspired, she posted a photo of Ava's drawing on social media, captioning it with a plea: "Our kids need a safe place to dream. Help us build it." Across town, in a cozy suburb where lawns were manicured and porches held rocking chairs, a man named Jordan scrolled through his feed. At 35, Jordan had escaped Willow Creek's grip, thanks to a scholarship that pulled him into college and a career in architecture. But success hadn't erased the scars of his youth, the memories of scraped knees on concrete, and the ache of watching friends slip into trouble without a safe outlet. Jordan ran a small firm now, designing sleek offices, but his heart pulled him back to his roots. When he saw Elena's post, something stirred deep within him, a quiet fire that had been smoldering for years. He reached out, his message simple: "I'm from Willow Creek too. Let's make that playground happen." Jordan gathered a handful of like-minded souls, starting with his old friend Mia, a social worker with a laugh that could light up the darkest room. Mia had spent her days counseling families in crisis, witnessing the toll of poverty on young minds. She believed play wasn't a luxury but a lifeline, a way for kids to process pain and build resilience. Then there was Carlos, a burly construction worker with tattoos peeking from his sleeves, and a gentle demeanor that surprised everyone. Carlos had lost his brother to street violence years ago and channeled his grief into building things that lasted, things that brought people together. Rounding out the core group was Leela, a retired nurse whose hands had healed countless wounds in the emergency room. At 62, she refused to sit idle, her kindness a quiet force that mended more than bodies. Together, they formed the Willow Creek Volunteers, united by a shared conviction that one act of compassion could ripple outward like a stone in a pond. The project began with optimism. As Jordan sketched plans inspired by Ava's drawing colorful swings, a climbing wall shaped like a mountain, and a sandbox for tiny architects, they canvassed the neighborhood, knocking on doors with flyers and smiles. Elena joined immediately, her exhaustion forgotten in the excitement. Ava tagged along, her eyes wide as she watched adults listen to her ideas. But challenges mounted quickly. The city dragged its feet on permits, citing budget cuts and red tape. Supplies were scarce, donations trickled in, but lumber and paint cost more than expected. One evening, as the group met in Elena's cramped living room, frustration boiled over. "We've got heart," Carlos muttered, "but heart doesn't buy nails." Mia nodded, her usual cheer dimmed, "And the weather's turning. If we don't start soon, winter will bury this dream." Amid the setbacks, emotional bonds deepened. Jordan shared his story one rainy afternoon while sorting donated tools. "I grew up here," he confessed, voice thick with memory. "No playground meant we played in alleys, and not all of us made it out." Mia placed a hand on his shoulder, her own eyes misting. "My clients' kids remind me of you back then. This isn't just about swings, it's about saving futures." Leela, ever the nurturer, baked cookies for the meetings, her treats a small act of love that eased tensions. Carlos, the quiet giant, surprised everyone by mentoring a group of teens from the neighborhood, teaching them basic carpentry. One boy, Diego, had been skipping school, his anger a shield against a broken home. Under Carlos's guidance, Diego hammered his frustrations into wood, finding purpose in the rhythm of work. These moments of vulnerability wove the group tighter, turning strangers into a family forged by shared struggle. Then came the first emotional twist. As permits finally cleared, a storm hit Detroit like a vengeful force, flooding the lot and washing away the initial markers they'd staked. The volunteers arrived to find mud and debris, their progress erased. Alina broke down, hugging Ava as tears fell. "How do we keep going?" she whispered. Jordan knelt in the muck, his resolve hardening. "We rebuild together." But doubt crept in, especially when Mr. Harlan, the elderly owner of the adjacent property, stormed over with complaints. A gruff widower in his 70s, Harlan had lived in Willow Creek all his life, his yard a fortress of overgrown hedges. "Noise, kids everywhere. It'll ruin my peace," he grumbled, threatening to call the authorities. The group tried reasoning, but Harlan turned away, his loneliness a wall they couldn't breach. Undeterred, the volunteers pressed on, organizing a community fundraiser. Mia rallied local businesses, Carlos hauled materials in his truck, and Leela coordinated volunteers from her church. Ava, with her innocent charm, sold lemonade at the event, her smile drawing in passersby. Donations poured in modestly, enough to buy basics. But the real breakthrough came unexpectedly. One volunteer, a young artist named Sophia, painted murals on temporary boards, depicting joyful scenes from Ava's drawings. A photo of Sophia at work went viral on social media, catching the eye of a national hardware chain. Moved by the story, they donated truckloads of supplies, their CEO citing a personal connection. "I grew up in a place like this." The act of kindness electrified the project, volunteers cheering as pallets arrived. Yet the deepest twist unfolded with Mr. Harlan. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Leela noticed him watching from his porch, his face softened by twilight. She approached with a plate of her famous apple pie, no agenda but compassion. They sat, and slowly, Harlan opened up. "Lost my grandson years ago," he admitted, voice cracking. "Hit by a car in the street because there was no safe place to play. Built walls around my heart after that." Leela listened, her presence a balm. The next day, Harlan arrived at the site with a deed in hand. "This strip of land is yours," he said gruffly. For the kids, it was more than space, it was his way of healing, an unexpected kindness that expanded the playground and mended a fractured soul. The group embraced him, tears mingling with laughter, as Harlan joined the build, his hands steady despite his age. As construction accelerated, genuine compassion shone in small acts. Diego, now a regular, helped Ava plant flowers around the edges, teaching her patience as they waited for blooms. Alina found solace in Mia's counseling sessions, unloading burdens she'd carried alone. Jordan, seeing his past reflected in the kids, organized storytelling circles where volunteers shared triumphs over adversity. Inspiring the community, challenges persisted. A volunteer injury, a supply shortage, but each was met with collective resolve. Carlos bandaged wounds, Sophia improvised designs, and Leela's unwavering faith kept spirits high. Finally, on a crisp autumn morning, the playground stood complete. Swings gleamed under the sun, slides curved invitingly, and a splash pad bubbled with promise. The neighborhood gathered, faces alight with wonder. Ava, clutching her notebook, cut the ribbon with trembling hands, her drawing now framed on the entrance sign. Laughter filled the air as children swarmed the equipment, their joy a symphony of hope. Elena watched, tears streaming, as Ava soared on a swing, free at last. Jordan stood beside her, a quiet pride in his eyes. "We did this," he said softly. "No," Elena replied, "we all did." In the days that followed, Willow Creek transformed. Families lingered longer, bonds strengthened over picnics and playdates. Harlan became a fixture, reading stories to kids under a shady tree. Diego returned to school, his future brighter. The playground wasn't just structures, it was a beacon of what kindness could achieve, proving that even in overlooked places, compassion could root and grow. This story reminds us that kindness isn't grand gestures alone. It's the quiet choices to see, to act, to persist. In a world that can feel divided, let's remember the power we hold to build bridges and playgrounds for those who need them most. If this tale touched your heart, give it a like, subscribe to Pure Kindness Stories for more uplifting narratives, and share it with someone who could use a spark of hope today. Together, we can spread the light.